Welcome to the channel. My name is Matthias. Today we're going to talk about Uncanny X-Men issues 158 to 160. This is part of Chris Claremont's golden era, and in each one of these three issues we're going to have pretty big things happening to different characters. The first issue is going to revolve around Miss Marvel. The second one is going to focus on Storm, and the third one we're going to have some really big things happening to Colossus's little sister, Illyana Rasputin. Everything moves at a breakneck speed, but all these issues are like milestones for these respective characters. So without further ado, let's get into this. So as I mentioned earlier, issue 158 revolves around Miss Marvel, that during this time, she found her way to becoming a recurring character on the Uncanny X-Men series, obviously because her run was also written by Chris Claremont. It got cancelled, but Claremont had more stories to tell with Miss Marvel. So what happens here is, in the previous story arc, the X-Men had teamed up with the Starjammers to fight against Deathbird and the Brood. And we have Carol Danvers, that, just in case for those who don't know, is Miss Marvel, or was Miss Marvel, who had lost her powers to Rogue, palling around with the members of the Starjammers. They're really getting along, and she's an experienced pilot, so she's a good fit for the Starjammers. And thanks to comic book science, Starjammers actually discover that Carol Danvers still has potential to have superhuman powers. That whatever Rogue did suppressed those powers in the first place. So what happens in this issue is that Carol goes with Wolverine and Storm to the Pentagon. At first, it's not explained what they're trying to do there. They're trying to infiltrate themselves when they come across Mystique and Rogue in the Pentagon. They actually blow Rogue's cover. A all-out battle explodes between the two members of the X-Men and Rogue. While all this is going down, Carol is able to slip away because she really wants to fulfill this mission that she has put on herself. She has a brief little skirmish with Mystique, and what we discover at the end of the issue is that Carol Danvers wanted to eliminate all the files that they had on her because, for those who don't know, also she was part of the Air Force. And all the files that they had on Miss Marvel, she wants to start off with a clean slate. In a way, Chris Claremont is going to push the reset button on Carol Danvers, and he's going to put her on the path in becoming binary, which is my favorite version of this character. She's insanely powerful. Then in the next issue, Claremont's storytelling is going to go in a totally different direction. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to focus on Storm, that has fallen gravely ill. No one knows what's wrong with her, and she's bedridden, and she can't even see the daylight. It's super obvious that she was bitten by some type of vampire, but what we discover as the story progresses, it's not any vampire, it's actually Dracula. Kitty Pryde is actually the one that realizes the situation. There's a really cool moment where Kitty actually confronts Dracula one-on-one. She actually has a cross in her hand, but it doesn't affect Dracula because she's Jewish and she doesn't believe in Christianity. That's a really neat detail there. So poor Kitty almost gets killed by Dracula. And what happens is Dracula flies away with Storm. And at first the X-Men don't believe the whole story that Kitty has to tell them. But obviously what happens is Wolverine is able to track them, and they discover, yes, they're dealing with Dracula. So what's going to happen is that we're going to discover that Dracula's control over Storm isn't too strong, and Storm rebels against Dracula. To the point that the Lord of Vampires is like, yeah, it's not worth the effort. I liberate you from my curse. And it's really weird because in all my years of reading comic books, I never seen Dracula capitulate so quickly to a confrontation like this. And the whole story feels really rushed. This feels like it could have been like a 3 or 4 issue story arc, but it's just all crammed into one. Later on in Storm's evolution, even within Claremont's run, we're going to discover that she has like this legacy of magic within her own bloodline. Maybe this helped her against Dracula's curse. But here, there's no explanation. It's like, okay, she's all better now. She's not a vampire anymore. Now, in the final issue, again, These 3 issues really pack a punch. A lot's going down. What happens is the X-Men are teleported to Limbo, including Colossus's little sister, Ileana Rasputin. There, the X-Men have to deal with Belasco and his minion, Sim, and they discover that everything in Limbo is very messed up, especially time. They actually come across future versions of themselves, all corrupted by Limbo itself. Even the corpses of themselves from a far future. Like, the story's really good. Again, everything's crammed into a single issue. I feel like this easily could have been a 3 or 4 issue story arc. And we get the whole setup for Belasco and his medallion that he needs, like the souls of 5 innocent people to be able to liberate the Elder Gods. These deities that actually are going to be real bad news for all of existence if ever liberated. So what happens is the X-Men barely make it out alive in this confrontation with Belasco. They jump through this portal to get out, and Ileana Rasputin is still trapped on the other side. Kitty Pryde actually sticks her arms through this portal to grab the young child, Ileana, and when she pulls her through, she's a teenager and she has been through a lot of stuff. We get that crazy time warping that we get with Limbo, and this is going to set up the 4-issue miniseries that we're going to get the origins to Magik, all the really messed up stuff that happened to Ileana Rasputin while she was in Limbo. And I have to say that here we get to see the birth of one of my all-time favorite X characters. I really love Magik, be it in the New Mutants or when she joined the X-Men. So we're going to leave this video here. I hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye.